we're also trying to push that before evictions happen, that the landowning agencies actually engage with the population. As I was saying, we usually see these evictions turn out to be surprises. The bulldozers show up in the morning and come to knock down people's houses. And if the landowning agencies actually work with the population, even if they're going to be evicted, that will smooth the process and ensure that the concerns of everybody involved get taken into account. We also are pushing for good notice requirements to make sure that people understand what's about to happen and understand what their rights are and understand what they should be doing to make sure that their rights are vindicated. With respect to surveys, the Bovina case is a good example. The rehabilitation determinations were made based on a survey that the DDA did that was a one-shot survey. If they came to your juggie and you weren't there, you were at work that day, or you were out running an errand, you were marked as vacant, and so you wouldn't get rehabilitation. And so the survey really needs to be a holistic survey that catches all of the residents, and so surveys should go back more than once. They should post notices as to when they're going to be there. The survey should be monitored by a group that consists not only of the people that are doing the demolition, but also of the residents themselves, to make sure that all of the people are found. Again, talking about the residency cutoffs, we think that the notion of some fixed date cutoff, particularly that it's up to the whim of the landowning agency as to whether they should update that in the future or not. As you can see, the DDA in Delhi hasn't updated their dates for a long time, and so it's still 13 years ago. We think these dates of residency should not be used to determine eligibility. Another case here in Delhi, if you live on the second floor of a building, you don't get rehabilitation for no logical reason. So we think no matter what floor of a building you live on, if it gets demolished, you should get rehabilitation. And then the next set of things are largely about kind of notice and hearing, making sure that when the decisions are made, they're well publicized, and people have the ability to go back and challenge government decisions, both on the demolition itself and their determinations of their individual eligibility. Let's see other interesting. So one of the things that we see here in Delhi is oftentimes documents used to prove residency are reissued by the government. So you'll get your election cards every few years, you'll get reissued ration cards. And so it's actually very hard to prove how long you've lived somewhere. And oftentimes in a demolition, those documents get lost. And so we want to make sure that the government has an obligation to make it easy for residents to prove their residency. And if the government's done anything to make that difficult, the burden then shifts to the government to prove that that person is ineligible. Most of this is just more about hearings. The other thing, one of the other big issues we run into are demolitions that happen before rehabilitation is done. So they'll come in and they'll knock down a house, and then they'll take their sweet time trying to decide who's going to get relocated and where. And so we think that it's important that any relocation that's going to be going on should happen before the demolition happens, so people don't have to suffer a year or three of homelessness in between. Making sure that the sites that they're relocated to are proper sites, that other services are provided. Anything else? As I was talking about with the Homelessness case, if you demolish somebody's house in the middle of the monsoon, all of their belongings get wet, their children and their elderly are stuck out on the street in the rain. So we think that it should be important that demolitions of forced evictions only happen when it's not either from a weather perspective problematic, not in the middle of school exams, not in the middle of religious festivals. No violence, monitors, and then remedial steps to be taken if forced eviction actually has to happen. We think people should get compensation for their lost property and their lost earnings. And I think my time is up. So this is basically what we're trying to push in our court cases. We're trying to get the courts to recognize that the landowning agencies should actually be following a relatively detailed procedures when they're doing any of this, because right now they don't seem to. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. We will share this draft with everyone. The idea behind sharing this draft was that